You take care of people. Let H&R Block take care of your taxes. Have the specially trained tax pros at Block Advisors by H&R Block find you every available credit and deduction and save up to 30% compared to the cost of a typical accountant. Plus 100% accuracy guaranteed. Visit blockadvisors.com/caregiver today to get started. Average savings based on national average fees for federal Form 1040 plus Schedule C and one state filing in the latest available 2020 survey conducted by the National Society of Accountants. Pricing may vary. See blockadvisors.com/guarantees for full details.
Horror Movie Night, we are back with another episode. This week, we're discussing Children of the Night from 1991, as picked by Scott, a film in which every actor thinks they're in a different movie, as far as I can tell.
Yes, correct.
I am baffled by this movie.
Actually, it's a real head scratcher.
Yeah, so Scott, what led us down the path to Children of the Night?
So I knew that you were going to ask this question, and I was like, I gotta prep myself. I need to make sure that I remember why I picked this. And I don't remember why I picked this. I don't have an answer for you. I want to say that it came up as like a suggested movie on YouTube or something. And I was like, I've never heard of this. It's vampires. I watched the first 7 or 8 minutes. I'm like, this shit is weird. We could get an episode out of it.
Scott saw Tata's magazine, and he's like, well, we've got to talk about this. So, Scott, from what I've researched, all right, which there's not a lot of information.
There's not a lot on this movie.
There's not a lot. If you had told me that this movie was shot to be a comedy and then Fango forced them to make it more of a horror movie, I would believe that, because it's so wildly uneven on like what genre it is. But I am willing to put money down that this is the worst film by low-key your favorite director, Tony Randall, a man who brought us Hellraiser 2, he brought us Amityville 1992, and he brought us Ticks.
Which I just bought from Vinegar Syndrome because it was $10 today. No, Amityville 92.
Oh, man.
Ticks, I'm not sure. I'll pull the trigger on.
And that's so weird because I didn't even connect the dots, but
you couldn't tell by all the Hellbound Hellraiser 2 set pieces that they used like reused in this movie. If they did that blind trick one more time in Karen Black's room, I don't know what the fuck I was gonna do.
You know, in retrospect, I get it, I see it, but I think that there's so much more Ticks in this movie than Hellbound.
There's a lot more Ticks, dude.
2.
Yeah, this movie has
twitching over here.
I'll play my card early, and I think that most of us are on the same boat. This is not a movie I really liked that much, but I was fascinated by it.
Yes, it was transfixing.
It was. Which is what a vampire should be, and a vampire does. I was glued.
Yeah, there was directorial decisions there's so many bizarre angles and close-ups that make zero sense. When we're introduced to our hero of this movie,
and we're gonna put hero in major quotes here.
Man, dude, what the fuck does that guy do?
I have no clue. But the mom of the daughter who he's teaching is yelling at him, but it almost never shows her. It's just close-ups of her mouth.
This rip on her lip that we never really. There's no explanation. I thought that was gonna come back around. Unless I missed it.
You want to know how I got these?
I was in Children of the Night, 1992.
No, but no answers.
Do we all get to watch this because of King Gore on YouTube? Was that
yes? Quick shout out to King Gore.
Yeah. I loved the fact that this movie has this major 30-second disclaimer that's like, I don't own this. This is just to share obscure horror with other people. Please don't take it down.
Yeah, with some sweet techno beat playing in the background.
Yeah, I was like, is this the theme song? Because I'm down for it, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it was not. Well, so Was I the only one that combed through some of the comments after he was done watching it on YouTube?
Oh, I did.
Did you see
I was watching it.
Yeah. Did you see my favorite comment, which I copied verbatim from Kren Cottrell, who said, "Curious about the following. 1. How did Lucy manage to escape the crypt as Cindy was being killed? 2. How and when did Lucy's grandmother become a vampire? 3. How did Frank manage to get Cindy and Karen chained into a different room? 4. Was that cocoon just Karen and Frank having some type of vampire sex?
No, there were 2 cocoons, weren't there?
It was so dark. I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
I could see more in that room than the underwater footage at the beginning of this movie. I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to even be looking at?
When the grandma gets a golf club to the head, you don't actually see anything.
No.
It's like this was supposed to be edited for TV, which is weird.
There was one TV edit that happened at the beginning of the movie, and then it made me look to see if it was a TV movie, and then no other cut to black commercial break edits in the
cut to
the
Karen
whole movie.
Black.
Cut to Karen Black commercial. Well done.
But the other thing, maybe I went into this with too high of an expectation because I hopped on Wiki and I was like, what even is this shit? And I looked at the reception, the release and reception thing, and it was it played at the Toronto Film Festival. And the only note was that one critic was it was the best film at the festival, and he described it as an absolutely disging vampire film. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Have you never
so
watched
tame.
any movies ever? The weirder thing about this is that this is a Fango movie, but it's one of 3 from the early 90s, along with
Mind Warp is one of them.
Mind Warp,
and I don't remember
and
what the
then
other one.
Severed Ties, which I've never heard of. But
Severed
Mind
Ties.
Warp is that one with it's the sci-fi one with Bruce Campbell, right?
I think so. Fango has had a terrible history with trying to put out movies. Do you remember, I want to say it was 8 or 9 years ago, when they tried to put another film out in theaters called Creature, and it went on to be one of the biggest bombs in cinema history? I think it made $600.
Yes, Sid Haig's in it. I own a Snap wristband promo for Creature, which I'm very proud of, actually. For the Patriot.
Not a terrible movie, actually.
Was it not bad?
Yeah, I mean, I saw... So, yeah, it was 2011. They released Creature. It was the first film since the 90s that Fango, was directly tied to the release of. And its budget was $3 million. And it grossed $533,000 in its box office.
Oh, my God.
Fango has not had an amazing history on
I remember
movies.
this one cover, but that's it. I don't think I watched it.
Well, and then they did a whole bunch of just direct to DVD distribution stuff that I remember seeing in Blockbuster a lot. One was Access. I don't know. I'm making titles up, but there was a handful of direct to DVD stuff that they did, which seemed like it would have been a better market. But I always just think that they I love Fangoria, but I think that's obviously not their bag, is putting out their own movies, and then when they think it is their bag, it's too late. It's it's the ship has sailed.
Well, I think that it comes down to this thing where us as horror fans will be so loyal. So
and
loyal.
Forgiving.
Fango
So forgiving.
Fango could be terrible for a decade, and I don't think a single subscriber would cancel their subscription because they're just there's no other horror things. You know what I mean?
Right.
The quality of Shudder films could plummet over the next 4 years, and not a single person would cancel their Shudder subscription because we're just we're no, I need this. I need this.
Yeah, the amount of shit that I've watched on Shudder, and that's a great parallel, Matt.
It is.
The amount of shit that I've watched on Shudder in the last 3 months has been minimal.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that I'm going to be well, it's with Netflix, I'm man, I could really take it or leave it. Shudder, I'm I'm a lifer, it's not going anywhere.
But I think as horror fans, and this is a prime example, right? 1991, we've been trained since children that being a horror fan is you wade through a lot of shit to find that
that's
one
the show, right?
Yeah, like that one special thing. Like I've heard someone say this, and I won't say their name because they turned out to be a massive piece of shit. But
Scott Roger. Oh.
No last names.
There was a guy who did a video about wrestling, and he said like 99% of the time wrestling is the worst garbage you could possibly be watching, but that 1% of the time that it's amazing like makes up for the shit that you've sat through for like 10 years. And I feel like that is so applicable to watching horror movies. Is like you go through so many bad horror movies in your life, but then you find this one like hidden gem when you find like a Phantom of the Paradise, or you find like the Last Shark, like these like golden nuggets that we like just parade around and celebrate.
Absolutely. And now Children of the Night. God bless.
Oh yeah, right up there.
The experience that I had with watching this one was, it went from me thinking that this was a lost gem to being like, oh, there's a reason why this movie is forgotten.
Yeah.
Because it starts pretty fucking good.
Yeah, when I see those lungs out of a body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the vampire mythos.
Yes.
But
No,
I just don't like the movie.
No, the point where I immediately started to think, ooh, this might be bad, is when we meet the priest Frank, who is just
my God.
fucking, he's performing for the cheap seats in every scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
you realize you're on a sound stage, right?
Yeah. Oh, he's bad.
Dude, he's real bad.
But I thought he was the worst actor in the movie. Then I met the cop, and I thought, no,
She's
it's
worse.
the cop that's the
She's
worst
so much
actress in the movie.
worse.
But then I met Tata's kid, and I was like, dear God, where did they get these actors?
The Tata's kid is okay. The Tata's kid is bad, but he's also like 12. And you're not expecting a 12-year-old to have gravitas.
Gravitatas.
God damn it. Shockingly, this was his only acting role. I couldn't believe it.
You are lying to me. That kid could have easily been on one episode of one show on Nickelodeon in 1992.
Speaking of only like minimal credits, did anybody else see the main writer, and the rest of his credits? So it's this movie. And then it's 120 some odd episodes of Numbers. He must have created and wrote the show Numbers.
I've never seen a second of Numbers, but I know the box art.
Yeah, right. And then like one other movie after that. And I was just like, I mean, talk
That's
about...
2 more movies than I've written. So.
I mean,
That's true.
Like, yes. And many a season of show that I can't even imagine.
It's just such a shoddily made movie. Like, in every
started out like
aspect.
Goosebumps. I thought it was going to be a Goosebumps
so
episode.
good, though. Like, there are some really, really good shots.
No, I actually think the directing is probably the part that I have the least complaint about, because it's ambitiously directed.
You're giving him too much credit, my dude.
No, but what I mean by like ambitiously directed is like, if I was to make this movie, it'd be a whole lot of establishing shots, wide shots, and like medium shots. I wouldn't have thought to do the angles and the close-ups that he chose to do. Like, it almost feels like a John Waters movie. You know what I mean? Like, John Waters would do that type of like abstract shit. The problem is that the source material doesn't justify the visual ideas of it. But then did you guys catch what might be the part that made me laugh the hardest? And I was not supposed to be laughing at this. So at the end of the movie, the 2 girls, I know the one is Lucy. I forget who her friend is. That's
Cindy?
like Cindy. Cindy and Lucy are going back to the crypt to take down the main vampire. And it is painfully obvious that something happened to just Cindy's dialogue, because her voice is like so obviously ADR'd, but when Lucy talks, it's clear that she's not ADR'd.
She's like
And it's
in the crypt.
Half of that scene is a shot of the full moon, and then it cuts to from behind Cindy finishing up. I know I watched that exact part, and I know I was just like, it's a lot of the problem is too. It's a lot of explanation of the more of the mythos.
Yeah,
it's
it couldn't be cut.
It's like
It
the
was
last
literally-
part of the mythos of the vampires, which happens a lot. Like, this movie had a lot of explaining to do as far as like what. And I mean, nothing was majorly different as far as any other vampire lore.
I do like the way they sleep, but they didn't even keep with that mythos. Like,
No,
they
they
said
didn't.
that they sleep the way they died, and so Cindy or whoever, was drowned, and so she sleeps in a bathtub with her lungs outside of her mouth, which is a genius idea. I love it. It's so gross.
It was gross.
And
It
it's
was great.
and she like sucks it back in when she wakes up at night at sundown.
And that was before I knew it was a bad movie. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that was
Yeah,
still
yeah,
early
it was
enough
early
in
on.
where I'm like, oh, this is
So
getting
you're
I
saying
was
there's a
on
chance.
board, and I was like, Karen Black is in it, and I know that she
She
like,
goes full Deadite too. It's
fucking
like,
she
Chocolate
does.
Chip Charlie is up in this movie.
Yeah,
Garrett Morris.
yeah. Well, the thing is that he is awful in this movie. I don't know if he's actually good at anything, but
I genuinely think that every actor thought they were in a different type of movie. You know what I mean?
No,
Like
I think you're right, but at the same time, this movie is a comedy. It's a comedy that was just, it's like fucking Up from the Depths, where it was written, directed, and edited as a comedy, and then somebody had to make it be a horror movie.
yeah,
And
Roger
that's fine.
Corman was like, no, we're going to make this a horror film. And then it's like everything that you watch, you're like, I just wish that they kept it what it was, which was like a send off, like a send up to Jaws. Like we're going to make a bad Jaws
Exactly.
parody. Oh, what was that
what was that?
sound? What?
I like how you're trying to be sneaky about it.
I was
We're
trying
at
to
Children
be
of the Night.
sneaky.
We have great hearing.
No beer for me tonight because I'm trying to get over something, but I have a blood orange hop water.
Nice.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, and I have something as well.
What we got going on?
Which I will probably drink 3 sips of because I don't like it. But I like the name. And I meant to use this for John Carpenter's Vampires, but I forgot that it was in the back of the fridge. So found it tonight. Original Sin Dry Rosé Cider. It's not
very
good.
nice.
But I like
very
the name
nice.
Original Sin because it implies vampires.
Yes, very nice.
I want to talk a little bit about the grandmother in this movie.
Do we need to talk about
So I just want to bring up 2 things. Thing number 1, Scott, if you're going to eventually make this album that you and I have talked about forever, where it's literally just horror movie audio clips and then whatever music you want
breakdown?
to put after it, you have to use the sample of the grandma yelling, it's party time. Like, but also there was one of my notes says, is this grandmother listening to Ween? Because like he
that
walks into
music
the
is so weird.
It's
I have a
so
note about it too.
strange. I couldn't figure out what the fuck it was, but it was so out there that I'm like, this sounds like Dean Ween is doing like some weird falsetto.
It was
voice.
like Dean Ween is higher than normal and doesn't have a record company who's trying to rein him in. Yeah. It was very weird, very bad. I didn't like it. There's
No.
so much about this movie that I truly disliked. But at the end of the day, I'm happy that we experienced it. You know?
It's not what I would have picked. Like
No,
it's not
I-
like even in my rate. I actually don't even think I knew. Like the cover art didn't ring a bell for me.
No,
Like,
this was a
the
total
title,
blind.
Nothing.
Well, this wasn't a
Totally
total blind watch. This was an almost blind watch for me.
Oh yeah,
but
you got 20 minutes on us.
it's the thing is that no, I had 10 minutes
10
on
minutes,
you.
excuse me.
I mean, like that's
Which were the best part of the movie, honestly.
By the time you get to the third act, I was dying. I was like, "Is this over?" But here's the thing that I really did like and Kyle said that Karen Black goes full Deadite. Fucking love that shit. Poor Karen Black is wearing the biggest prosthetic vampire teeth that she can't talk around, and I just feel like this would have been so much better if they hadn't Ed Wooded that part.
yeah.
This movie is kind of unsavable in that it's so dumb.
Yeah.
Like every situation is contrived. All the characters are unlikable more or less. Nobody's really acting, but there is a bit of charm in that. Maybe it's not charm, but I feel like I understood something about watching this movie and discussing with you guys so far. Hellbound is cheese.
Yeah.
Like I rewatched Hellbound 3 months ago or something like that on Shudder. It's so cheesy.
It's cheesy, but it's the best cheesy that we got out of a Hellraiser movie for a very long time.
It's super fun, but I'm also thinking like I love cheese. You know, like I
Yeah.
love a cheesy fucking horror movie. It's my bread and butter and cheese apparently. But give me all the dairy.
Grilled cheese sandwich, please.
Yeah, grub. But I just feel like this lacked some sort of angle. I don't think it was a money thing.
So let me bring this up. It's called Children of the Night, which is not a great title.
Super forgettable.
But something that I was noticing in the movie that I was like, will they explain this? And it would tie to the name more is that it felt like only the adults became full-fledged vampires, and then they were like feeding off of their kids. And I'm like, what a interesting angle, because like, I don't know, it's the vampires are so fucking weird in this movie, because they're not turning people into vampires really, but they're also not like fully eating people. They've kind of just got this suck 'em chuck 'em situation going with all of the characters in the movie.
Trademark. Also, we could make that a whole app. All right, guys.
Suck 'em and chuck 'em. Okay, that's my favorite thing you said.
But you're right. Like, the ending is so goofy and ridiculous, and honestly, the coolest scene in the movie.
They can live after being staked in the chest.
Yeah,
Then
they just got some splinters in their hearts.
So here's a question, and I definitely wasn't paying enough attention that I hope that one of the two of you guys were. So no one turned anyone, right?
I don't think, and that's what I'm
The
talking
only
about.
person turning anyone is the elder vamp, right?
Yes.
Right, who just likes that town, I guess, so he's not gonna like go anywhere
I
else.
Just don't like.
Well, though, like that's the weird thing. That's like the least effective vampire. Well, I guess it's not. Maybe he's retired. I don't know. Like he's just retired to this town and is just living off of his pension.
Imagine, if you will, because I feel like with the direction, at least, it was getting close to this. But like, imagine if this movie was like Meet the Applegates, but with vampires.
Hell yeah!
And it was way more of like a statement about like being kind of a zombie in a suburban town. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like the same way that like George Romero was trying to make some comment about consumerism in Dawn of the Dead, like making this comment about like the comfort of the suburbs and the blandness of it, where it's like these people are just like roaming around as vampires and like still going about their day to day. Like the doctor's still like, there is an angle if you tried, but it felt like no one was interested in finding any angle at some point.
No, and you're so right. Like something about feeding off the kids would be great. Some sort of like, even if it was like some sort of twist of like the kids aren't living off of them, but they're like, I don't know. But it's also 1990. It's also 1991, and apparently it's very clear that it's 1991. It feels it's the most.
It looks like every kid on TikTok, so you know it's 91.
You know, yeah, right. But no, you're right. Like that's actually a great point. Like if it was just a little bit more like Meet the Applegates, I think we'd all be a lot happier.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not upset about the watch. I'm just not ever
right.
going to watch it again or suggest it to anybody.
No, if it ever gets like an upgrade or a transfer, it's not going on the shelf. So.
Yeah, no, I am content with this being the only time I've watched this movie. And I feel like historically Horror Movie Night does not have a great track record with any films about vampires, honestly.
No.
Dracula 2000.
I can't believe I missed Dracula 2000.
Oh, you missed it twice because we also did a soundtracking episode.
God damn it!
You take care of people. Let H&R Block take care of your taxes. Have the specially trained tax pros at Block Advisors by H&R Block find you every available credit and deduction and save up to 30% compared to the cost of a typical accountant. Plus 100% accuracy guaranteed. Visit blockadvisors.com/caregiver today to get started. Average savings based on national average fees for federal Form 1040 plus Schedule C and one state filing in the latest available 2020 survey conducted by the National Society of Accountants. Pricing may vary. See blockadvisors.com/guarantees for full details.
Sergeant and Mr. Smith, you're gonna love this house.
Bunk beds in a closet?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
Hey, do you have an idea for a podcast but don't know where to start? Or do you have an already existing podcast that you want to take to the next level? Well, check out WeKnowPodcasting.com. From concept development to theme music to editing to logos, WeKnowPodcasting.com is a one-stop shop for all things pod. Don't hesitate to hit us up. We're very nice.
All right, Scott, you picked this. What would you double feature it with?
You know, I just feel like in tone, this movie would be so well suited to be followed by something that's also real light. Near Dark.
All right.
It's light on all. It just hits the brightness on all of the notes there.
Jesus.
Wow.
How about you, Kyle?
I felt Ice Cream Man vibes like right out.
Dude,
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
And I was just like, this There's some good effects. There's some weird, Dutch angles. It's very 91, as I said before.
I thought you were going to say Dutch ovens.
There's a lot of Dutch ovens.
They're in there too.
Dude, you know what? I can't believe Karen Black and her daughter were in that room for so. And then she watched her like seduce the priest. Real uncomfortable. Anyway, Ice Cream Man's my double feature.
So, for a long period of time, because I could not figure out what the fuck I would want to watch with this. So at one point I had The Goonies written down just because the crypt scene, like when they're floating in the water, kind of reminded me of like the deleted octopus scene. But then it was when her friend is like talking to Lucy and she's just like, let's just go back and fuck up this dude's day. And there was something about the way that the two of them were talking to each other in that kind of like devil may care attitude or whatever. I don't know how to describe it, but their relationship started to give me a little bit of a Ginger Snaps vibe towards the very end, and I was like, all right, I'd watch. It'd make my night better for sure.
Yeah, that would make your night better. But here's the thing: is I don't see them as a sister duo. I think I see them as a sapphic duo because the one girl, that's a subplot that I completely forgot about. Very beginning when she's like, why'd you fuck my boyfriend? And she's like, he was just there. And by the way, like, it's not that good anyway. And I'm like, you're in love with each other. Just, kiss.
And this whole town was just trying to ship Lucy and that goddamn school teacher instead.
Yeah.
It was fucking terrible.
She's like 17 and he's 30. And he was giving me serious Corey Feldman 1991 vibes.
Do you know who he is?
I looked and I didn't recognize him from anything. Maybe I missed
I don't know
it.
him from anything, but he's Dom DeLuise's son.
It's Peter DeLuise, 21 Jump Street.
I have never seen an actor look less like his father in my entire life.
Kidding.
Yes.
No kidding. No, that's why he didn't get any much further because the nepotism was not full blown.
No, nepotism can only take you so far, man.
Yeah. We'll talk about nepotism in the what do we watch?
Hey, speaking of which, hey Scott, what did you watch this week?
Well, okay, so I want to preface it. I'll continue that story, and then I'll tell you what I watched. I want to tell you what Megan watched, or was watching when she was like just chilling over the holidays. She was watching and criticizing Emily in Paris, which I believe Chris Fafalios loves.
A bunch of people told me that I would love Emily in Paris because I like that type of like wholesome bullshit. But
it is so bullshit. Here's the thing: is Lily Collins?
Oh, one of the most gorgeous human beings that has ever walked this planet.
Who can't fucking act? She is so incredibly captivatingly gorgeous and so terrible at her job, and the TV show is just dumb as fuck. So yeah, Emily in Paris is bad, and I really want to know what Chris Fafalios sees in it besides Lily Collins. Anyway, so I want to talk about a movie that I watched this morning because I couldn't sleep, and it was just playing on Hulu. It's called Boss Level. Have you heard of this movie?
No.
So let me tell you the cast. It came out in 2020. It's a Groundhog Day sci-fi action movie where it's a guy who's like reliving the same day over and over again.
Yeah.
Listen to this cast. This is the cast in order of IMDb. Frank Grillo, who you may not know him by name, but he's the guy that plays Crossbones in Captain America. The Captain America movies. So he's like an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then but he's actually Hydra, and then he becomes Crossbones in, I want to say that's Age of Ultron, but he's like well-known action guy. Mel fucking Gibson, Naomi Watts, and Michelle Yeoh are in it, and Ken Young are in it. Will Sasso is in it.
Hell yeah!
I'm watching this, and I'm not on my phone. I'm just watching it on my iPad with no sound. I'm watching it with subtitles, and I'm like, wow, that's Michelle Yeoh. I'm like, that guy looks familiar. Is that Crossbones? Yeah, that's Crossbones. I'm like, his ex-wife, that's Naomi Watts? And then I'm like, wait a minute. The bodyguard is Will fucking Sasso of Mad TV fame? And then I'm like, wait a minute. The big bad is Mel fucking Gibson? It's a crazy movie, dudes. It's popcorn as fuck, but it is a lot of fun. I wouldn't watch it a second time. It is so dumb. It's not horror, but it's horror adjacent because it's sci-fi. So
yeah,
highly recommend one watch, especially if you have Doritos.
All right.
I want you. Don't worry, darling.
I'm so sorry.
Don't. Well, thank you. So I went in pretty blind. Enough time has passed since all the press outlets and all the, junket drama or screening drama, stuff that, like, it just didn't have anything, right? Like, no real weight or merit to it. I mean, it's fun. Like, for me, it's, like, fun to be like, oh, that was part of it? Cool. Whatever. I think I knew that there was a negative reaction to it, a relatively negative reaction to it. But, again, I don't know. I went in with, like, pretty low expectations. And fucking looks great. I really enjoyed the world that they built. You know what I mean? Like, and the tributes that they paid to a lot of other classic films, particularly genre films that came before it. Ultimately, like, people kept talking about a twist. I didn't feel such because of our, like, prior knowledge of things and how these things kind of happen in movies that we've seen beforehand. But I also had a fun time with it. Like, we had to watch it in 2 sittings because life happens. And
I thought it was because it's boring.
No. And, like, the next day we went back. Like, that happens sometimes and we don't go back to a movie and it just sort of, like, whatever. Carly was the one who was like, I really don't want to watch the rest of it. And I was like, I do. Like, I really enjoyed this sort of, like, this utopia that they built that then got destroyed from within. And, I don't think that's a spoiler. I hope
no,
not.
everybody knows that from
like,
the previews. Yeah. Also, that movie came out months ago. You're fine.
Yeah. And some decent acting. I mean, to see Nick Kroll come out real quick was fun.
Can't go wrong with Florence Pugh.
And she's a star, dude. She's an absolute star. Yeah. She's such a powerhouse. Harry Styles was fine too. Like, I didn't have any real issues with him. And
he just made a mistake by banging Olivia Wilde.
Right. I mean, that's just.
That was just a mistake.
That was just a mistake. It was just an oopsie. It was an oopsie.
He'll get a do-over. It's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll come out of this clean. He'll be fine. Fine. Hey, nobody should worry about Harry on this one.
I did watch a movie that bafflingly was pulled a week after being in theaters so that Netflix could reap the benefits of it being on their streaming app. Glass Onion, the Knives Out sequel.
That was only a week?
It was out for a week. It was like the #1 movie in the box office, and they're like, all right, pull it so we can put it on Netflix for streaming, which isn't a bad thing. I also watched it with my parents, which meant that a 2.5-hour movie became a 4-hour watching experience because there was multiple bathroom intermissions. It's fun. I think that the first Knives Out is a better mystery Agreed. And a better movie, but I had fun with it. I mean, it's another one of those movies where it's like, fucking, I don't know why, but Dave Bautista, man, just like
he's
every
so
role,
fun to watch.
he's so charismatic. I read an article where someone was just like, why are we even acting like it's up for debate on who the greatest wrestler turned actor is? Like, it's Dave Bautista. Like,
well, it's because he has heart, and he's like, as soon as he got the Drax casting, he went out and took as many acting classes as he could.
He just takes risks, more risks than any of the, like, Hulk Hogan was just Hulk Hogan in the movies that he did back in the 80s. But even like John Cena and The Rock, like, they don't really stray too far from
like Peacemaker. Let's keep it to like Cena and the Peacemaker series from last year. You're right. He's just himself. He's playing the character, a toned down version of this character from wrestling, right?
Yeah, they're not veering too far off where it's like you'll get Batista and he'll do that PG kids movie where he like looks like a total idiot, but he'll also do like he has the comedy chops. It took forever for even John Cena to start leaning into comedy because he was just like action star for
right. But then when he does lean into comedy, it's just John Cena saying funny things. It's
which is it's great.
Which is great. I love it.
Look, no complaints, but it's almost like the comedy of John Cena is because we all know that he's such a nice, wholesome person that it's like, let's just have him say things that aren't nice and wholesome. And people will be like, that John Cena, he can do anything.
That's 100% it. That's it.
But like Dave Bautista, it's like, yeah, like he embodies Drax. And then he like, he shows up in Glass Onion. He's like this super right-wing Twitch vlogger, and you like buy into it, but yet you still kind of am charmed by him because it's Dave Bautista. Like, it's very strange. And then someone else, another friend posted a thing that I had to agree with too, where they said like, watching Glass Onion, it reminds me that it is insane how many times Edward Norton has been nominated but not received in a single Oscar for his acting abilities, because he is another dude who can play like 14 different characters and be believable in every single role that you toss him into. So
that's true.
So,
yeah.
Kyle, did you watch Glass Onion yet?
I've not seen either.
Or Knives Out. Okay.
Knives on. Yeah, Knives
Out.
Knives
is still
Knives
fun.
Onion is what I call it.
I rewatched Knives Out with my dad because he hadn't seen it and he wanted to watch it before Glass Onion. And I'm like, this movie still works for me.
I mean, so Megan and I watched Glass Onion on New Year's Eve, and it's fun.
I figured out so much. Like with Knives Out, I had my suspicions, but I couldn't put the pieces and the motive together quite yet. But like an hour into Glass Onion, I'm like, oh, of course. It's this. I saw a good review too where it's like, hey, maybe unless like COVID is super crucial to the plot line, maybe we can stop writing that.
Too, like,
I was just like, I don't need to be reminded of this. These people could just be going on a vacation. Like, it doesn't have to be like, we're taking a break from COVID. Like, it was just a very
weird choice.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But we'll be back next week with an old faithful classic that is sure to really kick in 2023 into the gear that it needs to be set to. And we'll be back with more Horror Movie Night.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.